this evening, and I'll start by introducing Gail. We'll introduce y'all.
Y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This meeting is always an exciting moment for all of us, not only all of us in the room, but all of the people who contributed to the units and the adoptions that you'll see tonight. There's just so many people that put in their summer time and their school year time to make sure that the units that we produce meet our criteria and are engaging for kids. And really important for them to learn based on standards. So I'm going to turn it over to our curriculum lead, Michelle Horn, who you've met before, and Michelle's going to start us off and kick off our adoptions for tonight.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to all of you on this beautiful, wonderful, sunny day for coming out
Finally sunny.
and representing, all the hard work. So before we discuss the curriculum itself, I really want to recognize the people behind this work. And not all of them could be sitting here today, but there's quite a few. What you will see tonight is the result of countless hours, and I mean countless hours of collaboration, reflection, revision, and very thoughtful design. Teachers, coaches, coordinators have all come together with a shared commitment to creating meaningful learning experiences for our students. Their persistence, their creativity, patience, and expertise are reflected in every unit that we will present to you tonight. So I'm very excited to have them all behind me and so we're going to start with ELA, our K3 ELA, which has been a lovely long work of art. In the fall, we adopted units 1 and 2. This work has been led by Erin Chester, who's our K1 pre-K. K1 coach, and Lisa Caldwell. They're joined today by Ali Salomon and Jasmine Patel, both classroom teachers. I think the 2 words that stand out to me, I was thinking about this last night for the ELA curriculum, is both patience, well, I have 3 actually, patience, persistence, and flexibility. And they'll give you a little journey into the ELA work this year, and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to start.
Right. That sounds great. I even have a little write up, which I usually am off the cuff, but I thought for this occasion. So this process is a real learning experience that evolves into what I think is probably the best K through 3 curriculum we've ever had. Thank you, Gail and Michelle Horn. It is an honor to be a part of this district who cares so much about staff, families, and students. It is remarkable. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm going first because I want to speak about the architecture of the units and the preliminary work that went into it before we even had the teachers come in. So Michelle was our guiding light with this. But what I did was I took all of the foundations units, I put them, in a weekly template, sorry. And made sure that the pacing out of the units aligned with our learning events calendars. The first step in ensuring our instruction will be well timed, effective, and efficacious. As I said, I pre-populated the foundational skills and the grammar, scope, and sequence, which we're still working on. And today I was actually in the midst of finishing up our PBAs and various assessments to make sure that they are aligned with our standards, with our CCSS and our profile and graduate, which we had done before, but really looking at it in a new light and making sure that there was alignment and consistency. Also making sure that the small group work that we did, the differentiated small work group work, is aligned to the pillars, to the phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and attention, making sure it's explicit and systematic, reading, of course. But in that regard, even though we are aligned to the science of reading and students have a structured literacy approach, we worked really hard to be certain that our curriculum encouraged student engagement and motivation and agency, along with alignment to the POG capacities.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh, no, you're
sorry,
gonna ask a question?
I don't wanna spend too much time like on all of the different units, but this is very, very important
Okay,
to me and to the Board of Ed.
yeah.
Because we were essentially forced by the state
Yes.
to accept, what was it, some bookworms and geodes that units that we originally weren't using, and we felt we were doing fine without them.
Mhm.
So the plan and the goal was to integrate them kind of with a light touch in a way that allows us to maintain our curriculum,
Yes.
our homegrown curriculum. So I wanted to know, it sounds like care was taken there.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for doing that instead of just taking their workbooks and
Yeah.
shoving it in somewhere. Because what we have going on here is really special. And this is my last curriculum and student development meeting on the board.
Oh, that's great. Are
Um,
you're probate, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be starting that in July, and so, this kind of is full circle for me because I fought really hard. As did the board, advocating against having to capitulate
Yeah,
on this stuff, and so. I wanna get your sense
yeah,
of whether we were really able to hit a home run, borrowing some of the stuff that we had to take. At the state's mandate and incorporating it in a way that will, if anything, be beneficial to our program.
I mean,
I'll jump in and I'll give you some context. So part of the work during the summer was to incorporate the geodes, which in fact, we found them engaging. The kids liked them. There's like subjects like worms and snakes and stuff, nonfiction stuff that the kids actually enjoyed. And we did pilot those materials before. It came to the fall and the adoption of bookworms that was a little bit more difficult for us and more artful in terms of our approach to that. But I would say that we took exactly the right touch that you would expect us to take in incorporating the right amount of that material. But we already had foundations, we already had Haggerty, we already had geodes. So those pieces fit more naturally. The tough part is fitting all of the compendium products into a reasonable literacy block, which the state really didn't give any direction towards. So you really have to be artful. And I'm gonna thank the people that are here, but also not here, because it was a slog in the beginning. And there were very difficult moments. You know, Lisa started out by saying that, but they were painful moments. So for this team to persevere, to actually turn the corner and come to a place where we're proud of our work and we think it's good and it's the quality that we want. Came with our own growing pains as a leadership team and our own concessions with kind of looking at what we had available to us and what we needed to do. So I just want to contextualize that because that's a tough question.
It is, it is, and I think, I mean, geodes, you know, with the teachers listening to this too. Jasmine, but geodes is actually a really good program. I mean, the books are very engaging, it's got great vocabulary, it's great to practice fluency. So I think our approach in the compendium model worked well. I mean, like anything, we need a balance.
yeah.
So I think we did a really good job at that, the district, you know, again.
I think also with the bookworms, we selected the books to match so that they were high level, rich literature. So you're still getting your quality text within the bookwork. So we tried to look at our units and think about which books would fit nicely into our curriculum. So the teachers in this town, I could say, they don't just it's script or no script. They're not reading a script. They're making it fun because of what they bring into their classroom every day. So, you know, I remember when Gail came and it was Allie, she went to say, and she was like, Allie, do it, you know, straight up. I want to see the lesson. But that's not how it rolls around here, right? Because the kids love the teacher, and if the teacher loves what they're doing and demonstrates that love of learning, the kids are gonna love what you're presenting.
And to quote our great assistant superintendent, she says that programs don't teach students, teachers teach students.
Exactly.
And we're very lucky to have
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this could have gone a very bad way,
Yes.
and it sounds like it's going a very good way.
Right, no one dug their feet in, they're like, okay, how can we take this and make it the way we like, the way that we know, because they're gonna accept this program, so.
Thank you guys for taking all that care to Madisonize it.
Yeah, oh yeah, there's that.
Yes, that's one of our favorite words.
Yes.
So I'm gonna ask Jasmine to speak a little bit about the impact.
Yeah, I'm Jasmine Patel. I teach second grade at Neck River, and I had the unique experience of both writing and teaching the revised DLA curriculum this year. So I am going to talk a little bit more about the impacts that it had on my students and my practice, because while writing it was such a great experience. Obviously, the teaching and is the most important part. So I do think my practice has improved in a variety of ways with Lisa's support, Michelle, and Gail. And also my second grade colleagues who have taught much longer than I have. I think we were really able to weave together the lessons and learning activities that have worked well for the students in the past with the new activities that align with the 5 pillars of the science of reading. One area in particular that I really felt more effective in this year was my literacy-based small groups. I really appreciate the fact that curriculum allows for multiple days of small groups in a row. So it really has allowed me to build routines and be more consistent and provide differentiated support for all my students, especially because I'm able to return to topics more than once a week. So I feel like the students' understanding is a little bit deeper and more complex. Not only have I improved my practice when it comes to small group instruction, but the paraprofessionals in my room have as well. Students know that our classroom para runs fluency groups, whether it's geodes, whether it's readers theater, and they see her as another teacher in the room, and she instructs them every day. So it's another reason I really like geodes as well, because it's accessible for all students and all teachers as well to follow. But there also has been a noticeable improvement in my students' fluency scores and their vocabulary scores. We just completed the spring Easy CBM assessments, so I do have some data, but it was a great improvement and I was really proud of them. So they improved from an average of 81 words correct per minute in the fall to 110 words correct per minute in the spring. And all students achieved at least 10 points of growth, with many surpassing that 10 points. In addition, 15 out of my 20 students scored within the 99th percentile for vocabulary, which is improved from only 8 students in the fall. So I do think all those vocabulary activities and small groups and rotation, like everything has been great. But also what impresses me beyond the scores is that my students they remain engaged readers. They're excited about books, they reach for them in their free moments. The vocabulary words that we've taught often pop up in their writing or just in their speech. And as I reflect on my class at the end of the school year, I see students who challenge themselves to read longer books. They write letters, they write expository nonfiction, they write narrative journals. They just wrote a letter to my husband today because he bought them a book from the zoo called Faces or Butts, and it really wanted him to buy chapter 2. But it is that like natural, it's amazing to see. And they do have that language to discuss themes and character traits and stories. So I really have enjoyed my work, curriculum writing this year, and I am grateful to work in a district that values teachers' skill and knowledge and perspective when it comes to crafting curriculum that we teach every day.
Erin, you're up.
All right, I'm gonna give you like a highlight reel so that you can know that I'm glad that you asked that question, because I think it's important to bring to life some of the things we're talking about in the structure of this curriculum. So I think one of the things that has already been mentioned is our literacy block and how we utilize that literacy block to do full class instruction, small group instruction, and partner reading and opportunities for kids to discuss books and writing about reading with each other. So the one area that's really important is that when you go into classrooms, there's a lot of consistency, and I think that's really important. We're a very big district with lots of classes, so the kids are getting the same thing in all of the classes, which is good, One of my favorite parts of the work we did was incorporating explicit vocabulary instruction That's something that wasn't as explicit in K and one, going into this year, but it's like, we're teaching, really the foundations of reading, but our students are ready for more. They crave that learning. They want to know. They travel. They want to go places and learn new words. So, in kindergarten, there's pictures and acting out of these words, and the kids are coming back and using these words in their writing and in their speech. We're using the Frere model to talk about antonyms, synonyms, now taking these words and putting them, can you make them your own? I've gone into classrooms there where I've heard teachers say, once you use it 5 times, it's your own. And kids keep tallies and they tally or stick around the wall. So now they're using these words in their conversation. And when I walk in, they'll say something with the word and like wait for my response. And usually you will, because when you see a 5, 6, and 7-year-old use a word that you're like, it's impressive. So that's pretty exciting. Vocabulary journals where they can, keep these words sacred that they're learning. Word harvesting, where you're now taking a word and saying, how many other words can I come up with that mean the same as this word? Vertical boards, which I'm sure you've heard about in your math presentations, are being used for words. There's one classroom where there's 4 words and there's a spinner, and you spin, it lands on the word, and you have to come up with another word that means the same as that word. So it's playful learning. It's very impressive. And that's an area where you can really elevate a child's conversation, their reading ability. So it's so exciting. Geodes, we talked about a little bit. Geodes takes the kids all over the world. And, a lot of the teachers will use slideshows where they actually have in Canva a little airplane that starts here in Madison, Connecticut, and it shows where they go around the world. So they're traveling to these places and learning about these different parts of the world, incorporating this vocabulary. The last collection of books in first grade is about a Russian ballet and being on stage, bless you, and projecting your voice. And that's exactly what they're doing in first grade, is they're learning how to kind of put themselves in the character's shoes, project their voice. So it's like, and I think, it's been so great with Michelle because she's connected to the science curriculum. So the animals in kindergarten and grade 1, we connected that. So now we're actually merging our science and social studies, like just really making it meaningful for the kids. Writing about reading was something that happened here and there in K and 1, but I could say we've definitely in grade 1, there's lots of writing about reading to help make meaning of the text. Students working together to become fluent readers by dyad reading. It's actually so amazing to watch kids teaching kids and learning how to tackle text and helping each other. It's like the most unbelievable thing. I always say, like in first grade, this is the sweet spot right now at the end of the year, because the kids are like, they've come so far. So yes, those are all, if that, kind of tells you that we have brought this curriculum to life, and, we've learned how to make this exciting. And that's the one thing, our teachers are so good. They don't want to be stagnant. They want to make this exciting. They want to see the excitement come on the kids' faces. So Allie's going to talk a lot about the small group work, and I know Jasmine spoke about it. The small group work, it's like, for me as a coach to walk into, doesn't matter whose room, a kindergarten, a grade 1, and it's like a well-oiled machine. And the kids have this like independence about them. I was just in Allie's room, and it's like, she's like, okay, we have 1 more minute. Okay, you can go ahead to, the next step. And they move around the room. These are 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds. It's like, there's not behavior. They're excited. They're like, what? They come like, what are we doing next? And they're learning through play. So it's like they're learning everything and anything, vocabulary, they're reading, they're boosting their skills. You know, I was playing a game with some kids in our class. They were looking for, you know, they were using clues to find words. They knew where to look in the classroom. I could see them going like this. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, you're not cheating. That's like a good thing. You know where to look, you know, and so we've just given the kids in our schools just this ability to be excited about learning and to kind of be independent learners. So I feel that with the structure of our new curriculum, we have so many resources. I mean, I can't even say thank you enough that the support that the board and Gail has given us to just bring in this rich literature. If you could have seen the books that are in these kids' hands in multiple copies, so they're listening, learning vocabulary, and then they're able to go to the shelf and take the book and read it themselves. And so that piece of it has been very exciting.
Aaron's not excited.
I don't get excited about anything, but this I am excited.
2 minutes is up.
Yes, I know. I can talk and talk. I tried to make bullet points so I wouldn't go overboard, and I want to give Abby a turn. But you could see, you know what? I came a long way too, because Gail knows it was a little bit messy for me in the beginning. But I put it right around. And now I'm back to myself. Feeling better.
Mrs. Chester definitely brings the best game, and I'm very excited. So my name is Allie Salmos, and I just want to give you a little background on how I started in Cranston. So my final year of my master's degree, I was at Quinnipiac University, and part of their program is that you get placed as an intern in a school. You stop, you do student teaching, and you pick up the internship. And I got placed in Madison, and this was, oh my goodness, 8 years ago. I instantly fell in love. Like, you could feel the passion of the teachers, you could feel the family school connection, and you could feel the curriculum was truly student centered. So when we rewrote this curriculum, it was really important to me, especially, that we kept that at the center of everything we did. So when we revised our curriculum, one of our main goals was to create small group instruction that was intentional and directly connected to what the kids were learning in their whole group lessons. So if you were to visit a kindergarten classroom during our reading groups, you would see that students confidently moving through their rotations with clear expectations and established routines. In one group, students would be building fluency by reading the books from the GEOS collections, which are actually aligned to our Foundations units. So they are accessible for what they're learning in Foundations prior to that. In another, they focus on vocabulary, practicing and applying the words they've learned through the whole group lessons. And a third group is dedicated to phonics and phonemic awareness, where students review and strengthen skills that they learned through Heggerty and Foundations, like letter sounds, letter formations, sight words, blending sounds, and then manipulating phonemes to create words. The fourth group focuses on reading comprehension, which gives students opportunities to dive deeper into the meaning of a text. So one of our groups is, if you're familiar with children's literature, Piggy and Gerald, very popular. So they get to make puppets for Piggy and Gerald and then reenact the stories that we've read. Another one, they look for similes in their poetry, and they search for repeating words in their decodable texts. So we also work to closely align our writing curriculum with these literacy experiences. So early in the year, students focus on hearing the sounds in the word that they want to write and putting those letters down. And then as their skills grow, they begin incorporating sight words into their writing and adding labels and details to their illustrations, forming sentences with capital letters and punctuation, and eventually creating informational books about pet animals that and showing their knowledge using text features, the format of text features that they've learned in the whole group lessons and small groups. But most importantly, this curriculum helped foster a sense of ownership in students' learning. It has encouraged perseverance when they're faced with challenges, and they built their confidence in their ability to read, write, and communicate their ideas. These are skills that will serve them well, not only in first grade, but beyond.
So, and I just want to say one more thing, that we've taken, the whole science of reading, all this stuff, and I'm so proud of what we've accomplished.
been a lot of work.
But also, thanks to Michelle and Gail for hiring Michelle, because this, I mean, her position is, and she's excellent, and we never would have come this far.
No way.
Without. I mean, we took all the signs and we made it our own still, so, it's not a quote, I mean, we probably sell it for millions.
Yeah, that's right.
No doubt.
Alright.
But I also want to add, before this group rotates out, the next group comes in, yes, definitely Michelle has been an anchor throughout all the disciplines. As a generalist, it's very challenging because the curriculum is very different in all levels. So having somebody look after the design elements and the through lines is huge. Sit at the table. But also the coaches and Michelle have also made a 2-year commitment to a state training called READCON. Which is very rigorous, and they've made it's pretty much like taking another reading certification. All over again, they have exams, they have modules, they have tests. They're 3 modules in, and the next year they'll do 3 more modules, and that's the kind of dedication that they bring to the team of their own professional learning, like their own growth, and making sure we're hitting all the elements that we need to hit. So kudos to our learners, and Jasmine and Ally, thank you for not giving up and coming back again and again as we go through different iterations.
I would just like to say one thing really quickly, that sort of dovetails from Seth's question, which as an educator, I hear a lot from my fellow educators in other districts, and also read a lot about what's happening out there with the mandate of having to adopt basals and not necessarily, well, not at all, a homegrown type of curriculum that follows the children who are in front of you. And I know there was a lot of frustration when that mandate came down. I was part of that frustration. I was in it, knee deep, maybe neck deep, in my own district. But I will say the things that we were hoping to preserve, and as you were talking, I just listed some of those buzzwords, and they were the fact that the data really grew and changed, and that's not happening everywhere. As a matter of fact, it's going in the other direction.
Yes.
So I wanted to point that out. Teacher agency, which those programs rob our teachers of, and that creates uncomfortable and not great climates in schools. And then everybody sort of is starting to feel that feeling of I don't like my job. And people are leaving in droves and leaving the profession because of things like having to adopt a curriculum that makes no sense to them. And so the fact that the fight was so fought with such the power of understanding and the knowledge around what's best for kids, thank you. And thank you all for fighting that fight. It was not a pretty arena to be in at the time, and so I really want to say that does not go unseen. There was an approach that I know Gail took at the time and still does, that was oh hell no, we are not going backwards. And she knew, and you all knew, and you wouldn't give up, and I appreciate that. I heard you talking about the student engagement and the playful learning and the ownership to learning. Those are the things that are being talked about, that are being lost in our the counterparts schools and districts and states, and especially in the state of Connecticut. So the fact that you are utilizing your paras, one of our most precious human resources in buildings that I've always looked to as the oftentimes in districts the least provided professional development, but yet you recognize the power and the importance of our paraprofessionals, and that is an amazing thing to grow that resource. The opportunity to be able to follow the child, those programs don't allow for that, there's no adjusting. It's a one-way track, it's a speeding train, and you take it and you have to stop when it says stop, and you have to, then go when it's go. And we know as educators that doesn't really match the way kids learn and the way kids can be joyful in the classroom. So I was jotting as you were talking, and every single thing that you said is the opposite of what I'm hearing from other places. And so thank you all, thank you. And we will continue to support you in all of this work, because I know when you're done, you'll all just be done. And if you know, you know.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Christine Justice.
Hello.
The other end of
You must love getting all these kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Christine is the high school math coordinator. I so appreciate all the hard work, which started last summer for geometry. She had quite a team here for most of the summer last year, and that work continued into this school year. So the first 3 units were ready in the fall, and she's going to speak to the rest of the work that's been happening.
Thank you. So I would say this work began way before, probably this summer. But we are in the initiative of removing the lowest level of mathematics. So we just finished year 2 of that work, and it has been going really, really well. The students' growth and their progress, their communication, their confidence. We have really spent a lot of time being thoughtful around that design of the curriculum, and excited for what will come with the Algebra 2 and sort of the really unique approach we're taking to that. But in the geometry, we wanted to ensure that as we put together our level 2 and our level 3, that we created a curriculum that would support all of the students, that would maintain the integrity that we wanted while supporting students who are still sort of in more of the learning stage of mathematics. So we went through a lot of different standards, and what did we want to highlight, and then what book sources did we want to use. And so we landed on a textbook, but we also incorporated other resources as we designed this curriculum. So the 3 units that we have here today are the congruence and similarity, the right triangle and trigonometry, and the circles and physical properties, which gets into surface area and volume, 3-dimensional shapes, and working with those. And so we took the most important elements of geometry and wanted to highlight them while ensuring that we were covering the most important standards for the SATs. And then on the top end of that was extending their learning of algebra. So while, yes, they've done Algebra 1, they have bridge year between that and Algebra 2, we felt that geometry was the perfect year to not focus solely on the proofwriting, which is where the course had been before, but really trying to bring it into a more algebraic approach to geometry. So while we do have some proofs in that congruence chapter, as they focus in on the triangle proofs that they will need for understanding what different ways that we can prove the congruence of triangles and the similarity of triangles, we spent a lot of time putting in the algebra reasoning for students and really trying to ensure that we were enhancing those skills so that when they get into Algebra 2, they would be prepared for continuing that work that they would need going forward. And so we're hopeful that especially with the work on the right triangles and the trigonometry, as well as the circles, that will support the slightly higher uptake that the SATs put on the geometry. They moved it up just a little bit to about 15% of the SATs is on geometry, but it is a little bit of the trigonometry, a little bit on circles, and then working with angles, which was already done in the 3 units, and then some of that triangle proofwriting as well, where they're just identifying what they can prove based on the information provided.
3 units.
It is.
We appreciate it so much, your thoughtfulness, and even the work coming in algebra is really exciting for the high
Do
school.
you wanna just briefly talk about the take on algebra 2 from here, because that is a very different take.
It is. So we are excited that we have the flexibility of the 3 trimester system that provides students opportunities to launch into Algebra 2 where they are where they're ready. So we're gonna have an Algebra 2 Part A. That's going to be the foundations of Algebra 2. That's really going to help shore up any of the Algebra 1 challenges that students have. Focus in on the heart of algebra aspect of the SATs and really be a prerequisite set for the middle section, which is going to be the Part B. That's the part, the nuts and bolts of Algebra 2, really the essentials of where most high school students want to get to if they want to be a liberal arts going into humanities major. And then our Part 3 is going to be a course that students can take if they are looking to progress into pre-calculus, calculus, and go down the STEM track. So students will either launch in at A or B, and then they are going to be expected to take at least 2, but they could take all 3. So we have some students that are set to take A, B, C, and some that are going to do just B and C. And some that we may in the future envision an opportunity where some student might have only done A and B, but maybe the following year they now have an appreciation for math they didn't have before. There might be opportunity for them to take a C, so now they can go down the STEM track if they want to. But if students get complete Part B, they will have most of the material necessary to be super successful on the SATs and in other elements of life. So not everybody is going to have to necessarily take math that will not be meaningful for them in their future lives.
A huge amount of thought went into this and research from Christine. She's been working on this for years, and it does take years to make these shifts in mathematics. So thank you so much for
Yes.
that.
It sounds like the intention, your intentionality on specifics from all aspects of students' lives as they go forward, that is clear, and thank you for this work. Sounds, I mean.
That'll be next year.
So wait,
so algebra
yeah.
2.
Sorry.
Okay.
So rest of this summer.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's
Right,
theirs.
Yeah,
I know what that looks like.
yeah, we'll be starting that very.
I do know.
But it's it's also very, a very ingenious way to address the differences that students develop, especially as they get headed, 8th grade into high school. Where you're either a math person or you're not. I wasn't. And I went into, humanities, but, I just, it's almost allowing a separation where the kids who are more math-minded students or more math-minded could do B and C and don't have to be bored through A, right? And then the kids who are more challenged can get a good foundation to prepare for the SATs by starting in A and stopping at B. So that's awesome. That's great.
It sort of erases the, why do I have to learn this?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably don't hear it as much. Well,
No, actually, we don't really get that question too often.
Yeah.
So I think that it'll be really exciting and then hopefully we'll just kind of see what we want to do with it after that when we get opportunities for their senior year, what courses might excite them to take, so.
awesome.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so next we have Chris Takayuko, the coordinator of social studies, grades 6 to 8, joined by his wife, Megan Takayuko, a grade 6 social studies and ELA teacher. So Chris and I, our work began a couple of summers ago when we started the revision of grades 3, 4, and 5. And we had quite a time together brainstorming, looking at standards, because the 2023 social studies standards came out. And so we had to make sure we were in alignment to those particular standards. So him and I started working together a couple summers ago. We got 3, 4, and 5 in great shape, and they're currently teaching those units. And this past summer, we started to work on grades 6, 7, and 8. So they're here to talk about that. Before you begin though, I really want to say, I appreciate your ability in social studies, because I look at the standards and I'm like, where do we start, Chris? And we, go around the table and we're brainstorming. But Chris has a very unique way of sparking curiosity and inquiry in social studies, and I think it's something that's commendable. So Well, to you, Chris.
Well, thank you very much for that, and I think Michelle and I have been a great team. And it's been not only are you super helpful, but just a lot of fun to work with. So much appreciated. Hi, everybody. Well, thank you for being here. The work in grades 6, 7, and 8, it's been a bit of a long haul, but I'm really proud of the results. If you take a look up at the screen, you can see that there are some commonalities cutting across all of the grades. First of all, we needed to update each of the courses to the more recently passed Connecticut State Social Studies standards. And with that came an emphasis on geography, both physical and cultural, that we wanted to get in, particularly in grades 6 and 7. We also wanted to emphasize vertical alignment between the 3 grades in areas not only of geography, but nonfiction reading and writing skills, and also alignment of content. So we were hoping to create a workable narrative that the kids could follow the course of history throughout the grades so that it made sense to them, instead of 3 courses in isolation. One neat thing is we've worked very closely with the LA department for interdisciplinary topics whenever we can, and often the LA department is using some of our social studies material and content, and likewise social studies is using the actual documents from the LA department. And we've developed some, so that reinforces learning, of course, and it also develops some efficiencies in teaching. And in grade 6, that's the easiest grade to do because they're obviously teaching LA and social studies concurrently. The result has been what I feel, and many people agree, is the creation of a vibrant, globally inspired curriculum that puts the kids in the driver's seat of their learning, which really matters in history in many ways. In grade 6, let's see, we're largely in the polishing stage. It had far less revisions than grade 7 and 8, which I can get into a little bit later. We found that we've created a curriculum filled with a lot of authentic experiences to elevate critical thinking. One of the messages that I was just alluding to was we don't really want kids to think of history as a single agreed upon narrative that was sort of like a destiny, but rather it was the result of individual people making individual choices so that the kids can think, hey, I can make choices and I can impact things in turn. So we've created a real lot of authentic experiences for the kids, and Megan was going to describe a few of those now.
Sure, thank you, Chris. I was fortunate to be part of the curriculum writing that started, I think, last year for the new 6th grade curriculum, and that was a complete overhaul from the previous. I think there were maybe, I can think like 4 different topics that were able to be incorporated into the new 3 units, but overall it was vastly different, and it's exciting. It has a, as Chris said, a narrative to it so that you're able to start in one place in prehistory and you're able to literally march through history and civilizations to end in imperialism in like 1914, right before they're going to pick up in 7th grade. And we actually say that. And so the kids really go through this experience that is incredibly rich. So as I think Michelle said, Chris's unique insight and ways that he thinks, I feel, are incredibly original and are so important to Madison. His insight and way that he crafts like focuses that we were going to do, we were able to, he would have an idea, and then I think the 6th grade team was able to kind of put it to the 6th grade test. We were able to pick to 6th grade friendly it from this very high, I think pretty genius place, and put that into how that would work in the classroom. And I'm really grateful for his understanding of the history and focus to what was important, I think, for our students. So he and Michelle were definitely an amazing team. So one lesson that I wanted to highlight was Chris had mentioned the fact that history is something that is told through various people, and you need to be critical of that. And so in sixth grade, we have a unit where we do a Marco Polo investigation. And in this investigation, students are looking at resources that are primary sources that are excerpts from Marco Polo's book. So for instance, or excuse me, it would be Rustichello, who wrote for Marco Polo while they were in Venice in prison. And that actually matters because the kids would, for instance, look at an excerpt that would be describing, Marco Polo describing an animal that he met while he was in China. And the kids are reading this description about an animal that has a unicorn-like horn and a thick body with massive legs. And it doesn't tell you what animal it is, describes it because there wouldn't have been a name for the animal for Marco Polo. So the kids sketch it out and then have to, decide what that animal was. That's kind of fun. But that's an excerpt from his book. So after engaging in looking at some various excerpts, they then had to decide whether they feel Marco Polo actually did travel all the way to China to Kukulkan and to get to experience that, or if in fact Rustichello, who was known to be more of a romantic writer of the time, embellished a lot as he heard little tidbits that Marco Polo might have captured along the Silk Road journey, but maybe not all the way from Venice to China. So that was something that my students really enjoyed because there wasn't necessarily a right answer. There's two different books written on the topic that are pretty recent. And the kids saw both of those book covers and what the kind of key points were for each of these novels, and novels, but with facts, both of these perspectives. And then we're able to come to their conclusion based on the investigation that they did. It's kind of like CSI style as they look through these artifacts, these, that they had exhibit A type of thing in small groups. And then they wrote their what they felt was their claim that he had or had not gone and had evidence to support it. So I appreciate the fact that students were engaged, first of all, looking at primary sources. Second of all, engaging in understanding that just because you're told something is one way doesn't mean it actually is. So we need to always be thinking critically.
I can imagine in sixth grade, they're at the level where they can there's actual resources from competing authors arguing about history, and that's what we're trying to introduce them to at that pretty young age.
So I just want to, make a comment that when you shift standards in social studies and the content shifts that much, like it shifted a lot. Chris's deep understanding of all aspects of history is super valuable because we're redoing PD for all of us as well to then create those experiences for kids. So when you talk about it, I know you guys talk at dinner too, I'm sure social studies all the time, but I'm sure there's a sharp learning curve for teachers and all of these things that we're doing. Their professional growth is huge, and they're taking a leap to grow with the content and then make it engaging for kids, because we don't take it from a textbook, we take it from engaging what's good for kids. So I think that's a really good.
There has been, I commend the teachers for embracing the depth of the curriculum, and they've done a really nice job with that.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a history major, so I was a social studies, math kid.
Yeah.
You guys should have coffee together.
I actually heard you a little earlier. I thought it was at the high school level, I thought you could either do social studies or not. And if you couldn't do social studies, you go into math.
Well, I was fortunate enough, I lived in Western Pennsylvania at the time, and I had in 11th grade, my history teacher was the Pennsylvania State Teacher of the Year that year, Paul Hoffman, and that's why I went into history in college. He just captured me, and the one thing that I learned, and it took me till 11th grade, and really it didn't really kick in until I realized, like, all my classmates in college were just learning for the first time that history is not about rote memorization of events that occurred on a timeline. It's a much more three-dimensional, critical analysis of how we got to where we are and the different paths that led you there. And with an eye on different things like how can we prevent something bad from happening again? How can we make good things continue to happen? And so to hear that that stuff is now being taught in like sixth grade, to me is such an advantage for our kids for our students over competing students. But it's also encouraging because across generations and in following our profile of the graduate capacities, we're inculcating these students with like things that will help them throughout their whole life, especially in the internet and ChatGPT era that we're heading into now, how to be critical and how to think that on your own that, hey, just because I saw something or read something doesn't necessarily mean that that's what went down or that's the full story. And now and this is my question, the question part of it, it does come at a bit of an expense. And what we lose is some of that, like you'll hear reports and you'll hear older people, complaining about younger generations saying they don't know what year the War of 1812 was or something like that. You do lose some of that timeline and rote stuff that is also kind of important in some ways. But I noticed with my own kids as they were coming up through the district, it is kind of interspersed within those units and within the kinds of concepts that we're covering. You show like a mini timeline for that concept, and that's transferable to other timelines for other concepts. So I still think on the whole, it's very valuable that we're going in the direction we are, and you're all to be commended for that. So thank you.
I just wanted to say, I think you bring such a level of, both bring this great level of intelligence with passion, and that combination creates such a great product that teachers will also feel passionate about. So oftentimes what you've been saying, you said that when you give a lot of credit to the teachers that they've embraced it, but I think it's due to the fact that you brought them something that was made with a lot of love and passion and intelligence. And I think they respect that, and they know that what they're about to use in their classrooms as the tool to teach history is going to be fun and amazing. And so it's a credit to both, and I really, really appreciate what you bring to our school district.
It does, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It cuts both ways, as they were talking earlier, like I've now become the end of history and the central ideas and whatnot, but boy, I saw Megan and Beth's effort at translating it to the sixth grade level in a way that I'm just not doing. I could try, actually, I give them like that shot. And I'm like, they're gonna love this. It gets reworked heavily, so it's really the team effort.
So I wanna know what happened, did they decide to multiple, what took?
It was honestly split.
It was,
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Well, there
There was not a.
I'm sure you
I
did. I have an opinion.
Yeah, I don't know, you have to read some of my students who would argue against and see if they
Yeah.
convince you.
I think, I mean, and to kind of piggyback on part of what Seth said, I mean, maybe one of the most important things that we can do as a district is teach our kids to be critical thinkers and to ask questions and challenge what's presented to them as fact. And maybe I would assert that's more important today than it ever has been. And so, I think the fact that our kids are doing that in sixth grade is outstanding. The other thing I want to highlight, I see in seventh grade, they're studying Africa, South America, Asia. I had a meeting with Gail. I saw some of that fused to the sixth grade curriculum. That's content I personally didn't get until I was in college.
Yeah.
And so the fact that middle schoolers are exposed to like full world history is really remarkable, I think.
That was a significant priority. So thank you for noting that. I can go on to grade 7. Yeah. The end of grade 6 has an emphasis on imperialism, and with that comes human rights, which are specifically listed in the standards in grade 7. And we literally take that baton and pick it up in September in grade 7. And the 7th graders know those lessons taught in 6th grade, and we bring them back in September. And the kids are like, they know. And yeah, we know what they learned, and it's a seamless transition in that way. And we pick up on the themes of globalization and human rights in grade 7 right off the bat. Our first two, in the 20th century. Really up to the modern day, as you'll see in a second. Our first 2 units center on World War I and World War II. Not so much the battles per se, but the causes and the effects and how to avoid and their repeats and so forth. But we did, the second half to third of the year is profoundly different. And at that point, we were carrying right up to the end of World War II, and we got into the Nuremberg trials and human rights being codified and the complexities of that. And then our third unit is on decolonization, which is that the world empires were breaking up, which gave rise to really dozens, if not hundreds of, more than 100 other countries. In fact, on average, a country celebrates an Independence Day from the British Empire every 7 days. So that shows what a strong impact imperialism has had on the creation of the modern world.
Some never sets the British Empire.
It does now. Yeah, some did it.
And they fixed it.
And so our third unit is decolonization, and we have these great trade books that are centered on South America, Africa, and Asia. And over 6 weeks, there's a different theme per week. Economy, history, world peopling and culture, demographics, and so forth. And so we have them using these chapters largely tech-free, which we're quite proud of. And instead of, they read the chapters and they break down the chapters into the text features, and then they depict what they've learned in a product, 1 product per week. And we have really neat products that the kids have really enjoyed, and we were able to do that this year. And so one is Think Like an Influencer, where the kids do the preparation that they would have to if they were an influencer on YouTube or Instagram or whatever the case may be. And in that case, they think that they're preparing like tech, but it's non-tech. They're still doing the work. And then they're like all in on that. Another was creating a storyboard for a Pixar short. And we watched some Pixar shorts. These are like 3-minute or 6-minute. And then you're gonna write one about your world culture, and it has, each box of the storyboard has to be infused with an aspect of the culture. Bow is a great example of the one that aligns most. And so they take the notes from the trade book, and they're motivated because they have a product to work to. So the kids aren't asking, what do I take notes on? You take notes on what's important to create your product. And they're working this on a timely basis, once a week. So, and this is at the end of the year. So they're really showing a lot of the skills that we've tried to inculcate in them earlier. So I do have 2 examples. These student work samples are on the economy. And they had to take the chapter, which is between 8 and 16 pages, depending, and deconstruct that into a visual. And you'll see that they had different visuals. We gave them a choice of about 40 visuals. They had to say which one aligns with my information. And then the second one are these storyboards on the culture of the country, and they had to trace that culture across. Now, these happen to look really nice artistically, and they do obviously have skill in there. They are neat, but I just want to assure you as you go through them that I didn't choose the best artists. These kids learned the drafting process, they've learned the planning process. They worked on a timely basis, they made decisions, and that's what we're looking at the end of the year for our 7th graders. So they are awesome, but that's the result of developing executive functioning skills and academic skills. And so I can share these with you. And there's
I thought you mentioned the art because that's next. So.
Separate. Each one is with research involved.
But I just wanted to mention while we're looking at these, one of the things I love that we do here, and you know, I think starting with Gail, having Michelle, I think we're really good at recognizing that the state keeps imposing new standards, and you know, colleges and life are looking for students to come out ready. And so there are natural, you know, standards, I guess you would say, that we're trying to teach our students so that they succeed in life, whether they go into work, into college, or you know, whatever. And there's not a lot of time. So one thing we're really good at is recognizing that, and by having like an umbrella vision over different things, we've been able to kind of do that interdisciplinary approach so that the students are secretly learning some English and, you know, ELA along with social studies. And, you know, we've also interspersed social emotional learning into every curriculum so that we're not decreasing the amount we're teaching them. We're ever expanding what we're teaching them, but by clever and creative, you know, interdisciplinary models that we're using, we're able to get it all done. And that's amazing.
There are, I get to go into the LA classes for team meetings and things, and it's very evident the overlap in but they're still fundamentally different. Okay. That brings me to grade 8. That was a total overhaul. Though that gets us away from geography emphasis, world geography emphasis, and towards US history. This was a big lift. We haven't taught it yet. We're confident in what we produced. One neat feature, which I'm excited about, we've had professional development on an instructional strategy called the 4-question method. It was hard to retrofit that instructional method into a curriculum, but when we were beginning this process last summer, the teachers brought that up, and I was proud of that because they found the PD rewarding enough to want that as a consistent aspect of our teaching in the new curriculum. And then they set their eval goals this year to pilot the instruction of those 4 questions. And it was hard. It was hard for them, but they reflected on it, and we're more prepared in teaching that next year. The 4 questions, what happened corresponds to analysis in our capacities. What were they thinking? Alternate perspectives. Why then and there? Inquiry. And what do you think? Citizenship. If we were to do it the way the 4-question method suggests, that we would only do the 4-question method, but we integrated it in at times that we saw appropriate, and it's a nice consistent diet where they're going to develop their intellectual skills using that throughout the year, but we also use other instructional strategies along the way as well. So I'm really looking forward to continuing that growth with the teachers And I'll be teaching a section of 8th grade next year, so I can go through that with them. And I'm optimistic about how that's gonna go.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, the standards change methodology with the yes.
We have the standards were completely different grade, it's a continuation of what our fifth graders do into grade eight. Yeah. That was the big
Chris,
switch.
before you leave the table, I just wanted to ask you to summarize what is happening with our 8th graders tomorrow, which I know you've been very involved with.
Well, we do have our 8th grade Madison experience coming up, and these are, I like to think of them as transfer experiences for the kids where we present them with a challenge and we see what they can do on their own in a new context. And we developed one for 8th grade, 6th grade this Friday.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And they're similar actually, which is pretty neat to see, even though they were developed independently. And the 8th grade meeting was centered around artificial intelligence and its impact on education. And then in its most recent revision, the guiding question was, and I'm gonna screw up the phrasing, but basically, does it enhance our learning or does it limit our learning? And I really appreciate that guiding question. They have a more age level friendly way. It's like, is it a superpower or does it as a strength stealer is what it was. Now it's coming to my mind. And yeah, the kids are already thinking about that, and then we give them a wide variety of sources, including a speaker who's coming. And that's elevated from grade 6. And
A very well renowned.
yes, and they synthesize that information to revise their opinions. And I think that,
And then they have to defend their position out.
yes, with evidence, which I think it's sort of nice to talk about right now, because I think you can hear in the social studies curriculum how it supports those skills.
It's a very exciting day. It's a full day for our 8th graders.
Yeah.
Every 8th grader participates. We have them in 4th grade, 6th grade, 2nd grade, and of course, 9th grade. Yeah. Excited to see that tomorrow. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think it was good in the first place, and the revisions really tighten it up. So it's gonna be good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Last but not least, art. Come on up, Bill. Yeah.
Some nice evidence that was presented from Short study.
I know. The word of this probably talked about each grade level for about. So I'm really happy to be joined by both Bill Summer, the K-12 art coordinator, and Katrina Engelhardt, who works in both elementary and high school. So, you know, I really feel like the revision, I know Bill will speak to it, coming around the table last summer, thinking through where to start, because K-12 is huge. The last time I did a full K-12 was science, and so it's a huge lift, and it's most of our units that we revised. And I want to say I really appreciate the creativity, the thinking about the rubrics, kind of rethinking things. It was a lot. There was a lot going into all of that. So go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here. The last time that we wrote curriculum, unfortunately, it was during COVID. So that was a really hard time. And I think looking at it, we were not forced to do things, but we absolutely created a curriculum based on how things were kind of panning out from that. So I think coming into it now, we were able to kind of say, wait a second, you know, our kids are getting, you know, we can challenge them a lot more. They're able to do a lot more of this stuff. They don't need to have their hand held as much. So I think that we can look at that with the restructure. But I'll have Katrina, who, you know, our big change, I think, was a K-5 curriculum that we did. I'll have Katrina talk to you about that change.
So as a parent in the district, I saw the votes coming in and how we are going to be a K through 5. So as a art teacher at K through 3, I would teach about 4 classes a day. And then at the middle school or at the lower middle school, we were doing 2 a day. And it was every other day for a trimester, so it's a very big change. I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna do 6 grade levels a day, guys, and they're like. No, we teach pre-K too, 7 grade levels a day. How are we gonna do this? So we met together last year, starting last year, and we started coming up with a plan. How are we gonna have materials prepped and ready for 7 grade levels a day? Of course, we also said, I would love to have like kindergarten in the morning and then first grade in the afternoon. And I said, that's never gonna happen. It's gonna be 7 grade levels a day. So we decided that knowing it's a pre-K through 5th grade model, that we as art teachers are gonna be responsible for 7 grade levels. And we still wanted to have high quality instruction, and we wanted it to be consistent and manageable, as well as giving our best to our students and keeping it their professional. I love all this. So what we needed to do was we organized it into 4 grades. So we have a pre-K initial curriculum that we have not started actually, but we're in the works with. Kindergarten and grade 1 are doing a curriculum. 2 and 3 are doing a curriculum, and 4 and 5. Which means we have an A-year and a B-year to make sure that they're all getting all the learning skills, keeping all the skills, keeping the creativity, keeping the problem solving, and keeping it leveled as well. We have to do differentiation within those year A's and B's, because kindergarten and first grade are doing the same learning objectives. However, a kindergarten is different than a first grader. They do have more fine, first grader has more fine motor skills, and we're gonna level that that objective to their skill levels. So it was a lot of fun looking through all these things. I would say to my high schoolers who are always saying, I have a problem, this is my problem. I love problems. So we worked through an A-year and a B-year. And when we were doing that, we found more resources that we needed to align to. We got a lot of books, which is wonderful. We added in more self-reflection in each one of our units, which has been really wonderful. Just really take a moment, go back and assess what we're doing, reflect in what we're doing, have the students do the reflections, and a lot more of those. We do PQPs, which are phrase question polishes at the end of each artwork or halfway through, just so we're critiquing each other and being supportive to uplift our artwork. And I'd like to leave with
Somebody's doing something right.
So our goal is to ensure that each child continues to have meaningful opportunities and explore their creativity, build their artistic skills, and develop that lifelong appreciation for the arts. And so thank you to Gail, thank you to Michelle for being there for us for all of that, making sure we're not doing a box curriculum, making sure that we are not arts and crafts, but camp class. We are doing skills, we're learning creativity, and we're doing it in a way that us teachers can handle at the same time.
So 6 to 8, I think this is probably the one that we did the least amount of work, or it looks like the least amount of work, but I think that it's probably one of the hardest ages that we're dealing with, because they're leaving, like they love art when they're in the elementary school, and then they start to get a little bit more self-conscious about everything and things start to drop off. It's really hard, however, I have to tell you, every time I go into Polson, I go into either Krista Eunice's class or Kenny's class, those students are always like engaged beyond belief. And I think that they're always worried about what's going on, but they have these lessons that they're doing with them that are just these giant projects, or very hands-on projects, and there's not a lot of technology there at all. But very hands-on projects and all the students love to do it. So I think that that's really important because it keeps them wanting to come back. And then when we get them at the high school, continuing to push them forward. So I think the only thing that we have to kind of look at is as we're moving forward is going to be the AI aspect of it. Because we're not sure where it's going to be with that. And once we, next year, I think that's going to be probably one of my goals is to see where it can kind of come out in the art room and at that level. Then moving on to the high school, we did a lot more of, first of all, one of the things was I completely changed the rubrics. I think the rubric that we had was very, maybe it was a little lofty when we did it last time. It was a little bit too open, and it was not very clear for the students as far as specific feedback. So I think I went back and I want to completely change it, incorporating into it the profile of the graduate, because prior to this, we had kind of graded them separately on it. It was just more of a holistic grade for their for the profile. Yet I think that when we're looking at art and when you're looking at design, you're looking at self-reflection and everything, it is such a vital aspect of what we're doing that to not grade them on that for a PBA, we just kind of felt like this, this doesn't make sense. You have to put it in there. So all of the rubrics now kind of reflect that. You can see there's specific skills or specific things that they can do, and it's very clear and very happy with the way that looks.
And Bill, you said that years ago, you were like, get ready, we're gonna absolutely get ready.
Well, yeah, I think once we finished it, I knew that there was something wrong with it, but we're gonna see how it went. But I think as you can see with what we did kind of look back, and like one of the things that I do a lot of is clay, and we used to have it, we kind of like tried to fit this into the model of we have 3 units for clay, and we have to kind of figure out how that goes. Well, it doesn't really work because we do things like we introduce them to the wheel, and that's a skill that they're going to learn throughout the entire course. Yet there are other projects they're doing in between, slab projects and other types of things as well, foil projects, and so it didn't really fit in almost as that unit. I wanted to teach it as we have 1 full unit now. It's the entire course, but it's very specific week to week where they are going to learn a specific skill. It might be associated with a smaller project that they're going to do. And the whole idea is to get them towards the end, the last 4 weeks where they're going to have kind of their independent project, where they're taking all those different skills, whether it's on the wheel, whether it's hand thrown, and then they're creating a series of pieces based on common themes, common design, things like that. So I think that was it was important just because I felt the freedom this year of not having to kind of stick into this box, but kind of develop it, which really makes more sense to what we're doing in the classroom. And I think that especially this year, because we had a new teacher who was completely new. Now, Andrea had never taught before, 22 years old, right out of college. And I think that this made sense to her. She was there for a lot of this writing. So this was it was nice to know that somebody coming in, it was very easy for her to just go along. She's been teaching it as this 3rd trimester, and so far it's been successful. Yeah. So thank you very much for having us.
Awesome. Count how many units for an art, but it was a lot.
There's a lot.
Art takes you take the cake.
I think so.
Units, it is the most.
Can I ask one clarifying question? For I'm just a little confused when you're talking about AI in grades 6 through 8. Are you talking about incorporating AI to help create, or like
It's more
questions around like how will AI impact art? Like what do you mean?
I think a little bit of everything. I mean, I think they have to see how it's going to affect art. But right now, I mean, unless they're using some sort of technology, right? Unless they're going to Photoshop and things like that, most likely the AI they're not going to use unless it's writing a reflection, but it's really your own opinions. So I think it's more for in art wise, it's the generative AI. So it's all of those things. It's happening. It's on our phones and everything. So it's one of those things that is it as we're moving forward for them. Are there things that we can use that will kind of help them? That we'll see. Is that there is going to be that point where you are not going to be able to tell the difference between a hand created piece of artwork and a computer piece of artwork or a photograph or something. There are lots of tells now, but it's going to be not very long before you can't fill out. So.
Makes me think of the advisory lesson in middle school that we presented, I think a couple months ago. Where we were talking to the kids about deep fakes, and there were tells that they could identify now, but but within a month, it was different.
Because I'm like, guys, you need to understand perspective,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that is
So
one of
true.
the big, fake, tells.
But it is a big part of identifying where it's used and misused, is to understand the graphic nature of what it's doing.
I think that's great that that's incorporated into the art curriculum too.
Well, it's not yet, but it's something.
We talk about it, we're trying to get it embedded
How
into
we
it.
talk about it every day.
So, and then because the other thing is like, there's that intrinsic value of just being able to create, and we're talking a lot about the fact that we want to have, you know, a great mental health ends up coming from having lots of different hobbies, putting yourself out there, doing that, I hear it all the time, so it's like, that's what we're trying to, you know, incorporate, not just.
And I have to say, it comes up with our students at the high school level. I'm actually meeting with 2 students tomorrow. That are AP art students. This is the second time I'll meet with one of them. About their concern about what's gonna happen to the arts, and they're struggling too with. Do I go into art in college? Because I have to know something about AI too, like how sustainable is it for me to stay a pure artist? So they're struggling with it in high school enough that they're talking to me and emailing me. And I understand it, you know, I understand why they're struggling. It's something that we have to defend, is the importance of the arts, but also respect that, that there's an influence out there that we can't control.
But I always said, one of the things was that when photography was developed, they said that that was needed that thing. And it never, that's not, it's just that, it's just another thing that's there, and then you figure out what's the value you're doing, what you wanna get out of it, why you use it. But we are gonna say after art, there's going to be things that's gonna be benefits of it.
That's a great touch, so
That
I
is-
go back to,
It
it gives me hope.
Yeah.
I just wanna say real quick that I think that the arts curriculum, especially grades K to 5, definitely demands a special thank you and recognition, because that was a huge change. And you don't always, even as a Board of Ed member, and we consider ourselves, especially on the curriculum committee, we consider ourselves somewhat inside in understanding what goes on in education. And that was one area where it became evident when the big debate was between, you know, block scheduling or teaming model for a K to 5 school. And I know that you guys have had to absorb a lot of change, and it looks like you really handled it with aplomb and really thoughtful approach. So thank you for what you've done.
And I can tell you that I had absolutely nothing to do with that, but that was all my elementary school teachers who.
Well, Carissa.
Figured it out, that was challenging.
Excellent.
Please thank
Just with us.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Thank
Thank you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
So just to wrap it up here, so for the 26-27 school year, we have K1 and 2 social studies, grades 4 through 12 ELA to continue that work from K3. We have AI literacy, which started and will continue. Computer science is on the docket as well, there's some new legislation. And I did not include, which I forgot, and I don't know Christine's here, Algebra 2, which is starting as well this summer, so I didn't put it on there. But a huge thank you to all the members, the teachers up there, the coordinators, the coaches, this work. I probably forgot names. The work is intense, it's challenging, but it's so worth it. If the outcome for our students is what matters most, and it really is a huge feat. So I'm so proud of everybody. And as a thank you to you all, I want you to come to my office and pick out a sweet treat. But I really do mean it. Thank you. I wish I could give it to everybody who has helped, because it really is. It's exhausting, but so worth it. So on to the next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and we are adjourned.
Do you have a combo? Candy and my.
Set, yeah. Legislation went through.
Computer science is. Yeah, I don't have any more than that, but
Yeah.
we're open
Oh
on
my
it.
God.
Yeah.
That's good.
I know.
I had a
I know.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
It's really something.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
You know.